Of all the tribes, none have scaled such heights as the Carja, as guided by the sun. Welcome to Legends, a series that delves into the lore within Horizon Zero Dawn, a world with an abundance of powerful and moving history begging to be explored. Today, we turn our attention to those chosen by the sun, the Carja. Thanks to their affinity towards the written word, we can trace the tribe's origins all the way back to the first humans released from their cradle facilities, specifically Eleuthia 9. With all resources depleted, these first people were expelled from their subterranean world and thrust into the wilds. Sometime after their release, while exploring a ruin of the old ones, a member of this proto-tribe came across what he would call the first leaves, or written text from the world that came before. Within its pages, Ahriman learned the basics of astronomy, and in this, rudimentary celestial navigation. Unfortunately, when brought before the tribe, this revelation caused a rift amongst the population. While some took this knowledge as a gift, others saw it as only a curse that would doom them to the fate of those who had built the decaying civilization that lay around them. These differences in belief would eventually see Ahriman and those who chose to follow him driven out by their former tribesfolk, set to wander further into the unknown. With the knowledge from his text, Ahriman followed the path of the sun into the west. Through teeming jungles and looming canyons they traveled, fending off those who would seek to divert them from their chosen path. Through this hardship, a distant vision of a great spire would renew their purpose. Even through their terrible losses, their people endured. For this towering image had been in the subconscious of the people of the first generation since their time in the cradle. Longing to feel the sun's warm embrace, they dreamt of building their way to the heavens to reach it. Seeing this towering spire must have seemed like their deepest desires made real, just out of reach. Ahriman followed the flight of the glinthawks above until he and his own reached the tower, so tall it seemed to stretch all the way to the sun itself. As the glinthawk perched upon its summit, Ahriman saw its great shadow stretch upon a mesa across the Viridian Valley. It was in this moment that he realized he had found the haven for his tribe to build and begin anew. From the passages of his texts, he would name this place Meridian, a term deriving from the Latin term meridius meaning midday, when the sun sits highest in the sky. This place would prove ideal to those who remained faithful to Ahriman's vision. Cliff houses were built from the plentiful resources that surrounded them, bountiful harvests grew from the earth, and bustling trade with tribal neighbors brought new wealth. The mesa also saw to the protection of its people, thwarting attempts from those who would wish them ill and despair, and in time, the first columns were raised in what would become the City of the Sun. In this, Ahriman the founder would be anointed the first Sun King of the Carja, and from the teaching of the sacred leaves, the Sun Faith was born. These became the two pillars from which the Carja culture would be built upon, each one supporting the other. Though the Sun Faith is rooted in the reverence of light, truth, and righteousness as the sun tasks its followers, they embrace the cyclical nature of life. The shadow might be the enemy of illumination, but the Carja understand to deny one is to deny the whole of things. They feel this twilight time that befell the old ones, though terrible, led to the new dawn that birthed the Carja. In this, the lesson that all things, even as mighty as the old ones, comes to an end, is a fact that cannot be denied. This thought is the pivotal belief held by those of the Shadow Carja and the Eclipse, but that is a legend for another time. The absolute monarchy in which the Carja political structure is founded is supported by the divine right to rule of Ahriman's bloodline. What began as a man using principles based in science to read celestial activity, over time became interpreted as a link to a higher power. Within the present-day world of Horizon, the Sun King of the Carja is believed to be the speaker for the sun, and the sole conduit through which its desires are revealed and thus acted upon by men. This making the word of the Sun King irrefutable law. Though his luminance is the pinnacle of power in the Sundom, further nobility exists within the hierarchy of the kingdom. The highest members of these families make up the Sun Court, where for most of recorded tribal history, male heads of noble houses have cemented the societal patriarchy of the Carja culture. Only when Avad, 14th in the Radiant Line, came to power have these male-dominated institutions been forced to change tradition. After the reign of Ahriman came to an end, his successors would continue to expand and cultivate the Sundom he had founded. His son and second king of the Carja, Amavad the Bounteous, saw to the clearing and sowing of what would become the royal maize lands to ensure the population would have steady food supplies for generations to come. His successor, Sadahin the Far-Seeing, expanded Carja territory farther than ever before. North, south, and east, he established the port of Bright Market, and by his decree, declared these lands to be known as the Sundom, and henceforth they would be known as such. Trade from neighboring tribes would continue to fill the coffers of the Sundom, and in the coming years, under the reign of the fifth Sun King, Zavarad, the Sundom would extend even further. The Pilgrim King would cross the Daybrink and construct one of the Carja's most treasured monuments, the Blazon Arch, upon its far shores to cement the claim of the tribe. Regrettably, not all those in the Radiant Line would have such glorious reigns. The sixth Sun King, Uriv, would see the sun's passing to the west as a challenge and attempted to set after it, an effort that would eventually prove fruitless. He and his cohort would disappear into the west, never to be seen again. This left his brother Basadid to take up the mantle of Sun King, a reign that is mostly known and is most glorious to be sensible. The prudent Sun King would construct the fortress of Sunfall at the kingdom's farthest western edge and declare what lies beyond it forbidden. The fortress would serve as a training ground for the garrison at the Blazon Arch, protecting the Sundom from whatever had been strong enough to subdue the might of his brother. This would end the era of expansion for the Carja. Though others like Kuvaidin the Returner attempted colonization to the east, his efforts were thwarted, claiming it was no longer fit for the people of the sun. The eighth Sun King instead settled to build great walls and towers at the border to observe safely from afar into the savage east. Times would only become more dire for the Sundom. During the reign of the ninth Sun King Renan, the Sundom faced its most dire hour. From the south of the Sundom, the Tenkath horde attacked. Rumored cannibals, the tribe sought to conquer the Carja, taking the sun's strength as their own. Though strongly advised by his council not to do so, Renan the Firebird joined his armies in battle and claimed victory over the would-be invaders. Though the day was won, the Sun King would not leave unscathed. So badly scarred, he chose to only be seen in his blazoned helmet from that day forth. This type of leadership would regrettably be inconsistent in the future line of succession. The 11th Sun King, Illuminated Marzid, was said to have visions bestowed upon him by the sun, and so commissioned many frescoes and statues of his own image throughout Meridian. He also ordered a great citadel to be raised in Sunfall to serve as a summer palace, all of this until he died, falling ill from his own pigments while painting. His brother Hivas then became the 12th Sun King of the Carja, whose rule would indeed be the antithesis of his predecessor. In this point in history, the Sundom's military might had been severely depleted. In response, the king decreed each family under his rule with a suitable male child should submit this child to the ranks of the army. In addition, artisans should turn their attentions away from their previous endeavors and use their skills to ensure every soldier of the sun be outfitted with the finest armor, halberd, and bow. The son of Hivas would continue the legacy of his father, strengthening Carja military might. In his early days as king, most would consider Jiran a strong and worthy entry in Ahriman's Radiant Line. He held strong the Sundom's borders from encroaching tribes, as well as protecting his subjects from the ever-growing aggression of the machines. The latter, unfortunately, would lead to his own undoing. With no answer to the derangement, he searched to appease the sun's wrath through the spilling of innocent blood. At the height of his madness, even his eldest son, who demanded the violence be brought to an end, was sacrificed in the name of the sun. Only when Avad, second son of Jiran, united all those who had suffered from the Red Raids, did the Mad King's rule come to an end. After Meridian had been liberated, Avad became the 14th Sun King of the Carja, but this would be disputed by those taking residence in the castle fortress of Sunfall, laying the foundation of a Carja civil war. In conclusion, the story of the Carja is one of devotion, both benevolent and selfish. For when power is absolute, the path to corruption is always apparent. To their present leadership, Avad the Liberator is dedicated to mending the wounds of his father. The Red Raids clawed far and cut deep into the hearts and minds of the Carja's tribal neighbors. Envoys of peace continued to be sent from the capital, each yielding mixed results. The future of the Carja is clouded, to say the least, but as always, they will seek illumination atop Meridian, the city of the sun. And with that, our journey comes to an end. If you'd like to see more content like this, likes and shares are always appreciated. And if you really like what we're doing at the channel, come join our community and hit that subscribe button. The idea for today's video came from one of you, our awesome subscribers, so if you have an idea for our next episode of Legends, let us know in the comments down below. And until next time, thanks for watching, and keep questing.